have a new manager in the EFL Championship. It is Sergej Jakirovic. It looks like Mr. Ilachali at Hull is going down the same route again. He's gone into Europe. It's untried in the Championship. Will it work this time, or are Hull going to repeat the same mistake all over again? That has kind of summed up, really, Mr. Ilachali's reign as Hull City owner so far. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I will give you mine right now. And look, let's give some respect to the guy first, because just because I haven't heard of him before he's joined the Championship doesn't mean that this is not going to work. There's been plenty of managers who I haven't heard of who've done really well in the Championship. Think about Daniel Farke in particular, who is setting records now as a 3-time Championship title winner. But think also about the likes of Vladimir Ivic, remember him, at Watford. And, well, we could talk about some of Mr. Ilachali's laundry list so far of managers he has already tried at Hull. So Jakirovic, I've got transfer marked up here, 48 years old from Bosnia. He's bounced about a bit, I've got to say, since 2017. It looks like he's had 7 jobs. The last couple, though, is pretty good standard. I think Rijeka and Dinamo Zagreb in Croatia. I think he was in the Champions League as well, managing there. So that's arguably, not maybe in terms of club football, but certainly in terms of that competition, a higher standard than the Championship. And then, of course, as is near and dear to Mr. Ilachali's heart, he has been working in Turkey. Ready, everybody, at Kayserispor. Whatever. I'll try and pronounce every word on here in good faith. So if I didn't quite get that, how you would prefer a regular Turkish speaker would, then don't let it get to you too much. But Mr. Ilachali, obviously Turkish ownership, and we've seen him go down this road for a few of his hires before, and it's not really worked so far. And of course, that does not mean that this one is not going to work. But let's just say his record with hires is not good, is it? I'll give him a pass on the first one. When he comes in and Grant McCann is there. Look, if you take over an organisation, you probably, the first thing you're going to do is bring in the people that you want. So I always give a new owner a pass when they take out a manager, however that popular that manager is. And obviously McCann had taken Hull up from League One back into the Championship at the first attempt, winning the title very impressively as well. Problem was he replaced him with Shota Arveladze. He was Georgian, wasn't he? Did he work in Turkey? Can't remember. Let me know in the comments. I think he might have. Too many managers, too many clubs. That didn't work, did it? Now, Liam Rosenior is next, which I think most people would say is probably quite a good hire. But Mr. Ilachali was not happy with the job Rosenior did, missing out on the playoffs. And then half of that team ended up at my club, Ipswich, actually. The likes of Philogene, Liam Delap was there on loan, obviously, wasn't he? Jacob Greaves, I think Fabio Carvalho was there as well. And Mr. Ilachali's argument was that that was an underperformance not to get into the playoffs with that squad of players. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. Who knows? What we do know is that where Rosenior has gone since and where Hull have gone since has kind of made that look like not a very good bit of manoeuvring, because Rosenior, where is he? He's in France. Strasbourg? Lille? I don't even know who Rosenior is managing now, but he's doing quite well in France, isn't he? And he had the one thing that a lot of these managers don't, and I don't want to sound like Graham Souness or Roy Keane or someone and say about knowing the level, knowing the division, but everyone says how unique the Championship is. And I do think, even if it's not the manager, having somebody around with that sense of, right, this is the road you have to take to get promoted out the Championship, which is what Mr. Ilachali obviously wants to do. Does that help? And Rosenior knew the level back to front, didn't he, in terms of working with Derby County, some people would argue he was literally the manager there already. But out he went to be replaced by Tim Volter. And that was an absolute disaster. And obviously with Rosenior doing okay in France thereafter, you then ask the question, well, they would have clearly been better off just keeping him, wouldn't they? Because it was a relegation battle. So then he takes Volter out, which kind of makes some sense because that really looked a bad hire and wasn't working. He brings Ruben Selles in. And I quite like Ruben Selles. He'd done a great job in testing circumstances at Reading, with all the off-pitch nonsense going on there. And I thought he did a good job to get Hull away from the bottom, given the ridiculous rise in tide and great performances from sort of the likes of Oxford and Portsmouth and Derby. Stoke had a little surge. In a lot of normal kind of relegation races, they would have been clear with a couple of games to go, but the tide rose and it was difficult there for Hull to get away from it. But they did it on the last day. Job done. And then out he goes and in comes Sergej Jakirovic. So again, I don't want to be completely reductive about it. And if you believe in a process and you have an idea of how you're going to get this thing to work, there is nothing wrong with trying it. It doesn't work. Try it again. It doesn't work. No, you're going to stick to your guns. Try it again. It doesn't work because everyone will say the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and getting the same results and not changing. But everyone will say you're a genius if this one works. And, it was, well, I always wanted to try this way with a kind of manager with high credentials. I don't know anything about the Croat league, but certainly the Turkish league is a good standard as well, and the Champions League. And can you fly somebody into English football, essentially who's highly credentialed, even more so in a European league? And there may be a sense that that manager then uses that as a bit of a stepping stone to get into English football. And I mean, look at someone like Danny Roll at Sheffield Wednesday, where he'll now, having come in, be linked with really good jobs. Or Daniel Farker, who we'd mentioned already. And you're then a mainstay in English football. And of course, you're one season away from the Premier League if you're working in the Championship. So, look, it could be that this is always the way that Mr. Ilichali's wanted to do it, and this one is going to work. And Arveladze wasn't quite the right guy, and Rosenior wasn't quite the right guy, and Volter definitely wasn't the right guy, and Sellers wasn't the right guy. I'd imagine the Hull fans are going to start getting impatient if this doesn't work and it's, middle of the table or bottom half of the table and there's another change and a pull away from relegation, or worse still. Honestly, do I see Hull going down with Mr. Ilichali in charge? Probably not, because they always recruit pretty aggressively, don't they? But yeah, this one feels like it's got to work out. So the best case scenario is he's been trying this attempt for a few managers. He gets the right one. They recruit as ambitiously and aggressively as they always do. And you know what I'm about to say, in the Championship, if you have one good season, and it was 68 points was all it took last season, you're in the playoffs, you're 3 games from the Premier League. Bish, bash, bosh, all your problems solved in one go. The worst case scenario is Mr. Ilichali is not learning his lessons here. And again, I don't want to be, I played the game. I didn't play the game. But, that's what Graham Souness says, isn't it? You need somebody with Championship experience and proven credentials. That is a bit reductive, but it feels like the only time there's been real kind of progress at Hull was with Rosenior, where they were close, and he kind of knew the Championship, didn't he? And Ruben Selles, he did the deal. He got them away from relegation. He knows English football and the grind of the Saturday, Tuesdays, and, a lot of essentially the travel and, those type of intangibles that maybe if you've worked in Bosnia and Croatia and Turkey that you might not be too familiar with. I know they have Andy Dawson on the staff who's taken the team in the absence or in between managers before, but I don't know. You tell me. How is Sergej Jakirovic going to do it? His manager, how many did we count? McCann, Arveladze, Rosenior, Volter, Selles, and Jakirovic. That's manager number 6 under Mr. Ilichali. So 6th time lucky? You let me know down there in the comments. So that's Hull ticked off. I've got down on my pad there, it says QPR, Borough, Bristol City all need a manager before we kick off, preferably before the transfer window reopens. We're in this weird block now without it for a week or so. And I've written down Leicester. I don't know if they have a manager or not. Do Leicester even know whether they have a manager or not? So potentially there's still another 4 jobs that are going to be taken, and that's before we even know what on earth is happening at Sheffield Wednesday, say, and whether the Brentford job might be filled by an existing Championship manager, hopefully. Let's not mention the name of the one that I really don't want it to be, but I think you know where I'm going with that. Let me know your thoughts on Mr. Charlie's latest hire at Hull, Sergej Jakirovic, and what I'll try and do, I'll link up a video there of what people were saying when Liam Rosenior was fired, and that might be an interesting one to look at the comments in. But let me know your thoughts on this one. Are Hull walking into the same big puddle that they've walked into a few times before?